Senator Olafson, why do you support states using their power to amend the Constitution through a convention to advance something like a balanced budget amendment?
Well, I think it's the only option that we have to bring our out-of-control federal debt under control. I don't think there is another option. And if you look behind me, these are pictures of my pioneer immigrant grandparents. I'm just the third generation here in North Dakota. My grandparents came from Iceland in 1883, and when they got here to the barren prairies of North Dakota, they had 65 cents left in their pockets. But they came to America because they saw it as the land of opportunity, and they prospered and did very well. They built a wood frame house and moved from a sod hut into that brand new house in 15 years. They had opportunity, and they took advantage of that and bettered their lives for themselves and future generations. Today, America, the land of opportunity, is quickly becoming something much less than that, and I want to change that for my grandchildren and my children.
Well, why do you think that the states intervening in something like federal borrowing policy can help?
Well, it should be clear to anyone who's paying attention, and a lot of people are, that Congress is not going to address this issue in any meaningful way. We have $18 trillion in debt, and it's creating a lot of other problems, a bloated bureaucracy, over-regulation. These are issues that are related to one thing. Congress has the unfettered unilateral power to borrow and spend money. They have no force that can stop them. James Booth, the president of RestoringFreedom.org, came up with what I think is a brilliant definition of the federal debt, what caused the federal debt. The federal debt is the inventory of the unresolved conflict between politically popular spending and politically unpopular taxation. Without external discipline, the Congress will not stop. That will not solve that unresolved conflict. And external discipline is a key word. The Compact for America has assimilated the National Debt Relief Amendment, which says that an increase in the federal debt requires the approval of a majority of the legislatures of the separate states. We have to have this external discipline in order to stop Congress from exercising their unilateral power to borrow and spend. And that power is what empowers them politically and ensures their continued tenure in Congress. So they are not going to change the rules. It's up to the states to change the rules, to change the system.
All right. Now, a popular counterargument to states having a role in determining how much federal borrowing happens is that the states themselves are dependent on federal borrowing. And they'll just approve any amount that the Congress wants because they'll be bought off with grants. How do you respond to that?
Well, of course, the states benefit from federal spending, but it's much broader than that. Every man, woman, and child, and every city and every county benefits from profligate federal spending. But we all have to wake up and smell the coffee, including the states right down to individuals, that we cannot continue on this course because it's unsustainable. And a lot of state legislators understand that, and they get that, because they, at the end of their session, they have to balance their budget in 49 states at least. And so state legislators understand that, and I think they will quickly understand that we have to take action and do something.
Now, you've, of course, heard that there's concerns articulated on the left and the right, mostly in the extremes of the left and the right, that states organizing a convention to propose a balanced budget amendment or any sort of debt control could be dangerous, that you could pile in a bunch of people in the convention and they might come up with schemes to rewrite the Constitution, take over the world. What are your thoughts on that concern?
Well, first of all, if for anyone who has that concern, I personally don't, but for anyone who has that concern, then the Compact for America is the best option because everything is predetermined up front. There will be no surprises in the convention. There can't be any because the compact is written that way, that everything is predetermined up front. So for those people who want to say, oh, we can't have an Article 5 convention because all kinds of crazy things might happen, then they should be the first to come on board in support of the Compact for America.
Well, what is your thoughts about the other criticism you often hear is, what good is another amendment going to do? How do we keep the political class following a balanced budget amendment when they don't follow the Constitution as it's written?
Yeah, I've heard that too, and it's interesting to note that the opponents to this using the state-initiated Article 5 process, their argument has devolved over the last few years. And not so long ago, they were saying, oh, if we have an Article 5 Amendments Convention, they'll do way too much. They'll repeal the First Amendment, they'll repeal the Second, they'll pass all kinds of crazy amendments like everybody has to wear pink socks on Sunday or something, crazy and lunatic like that. But now they're saying that it's no use to have an Article 5 convention because any amendment they pass won't do anything because they're ignoring the Constitution now. And that's not true. The First and Second Amendment, for example, in the bill and the entire Bill of Rights, for that matter, for the most part, the First and Second Amendments are being very closely followed. And there's people that suggest that we should do this or that with free speech and Second Amendment gun rights. But for the most part, those amendments are being closely followed. Another good example, I believe it's the 22nd Amendment that limits the president to 2 terms. We've had that in place for several decades. No one has made any serious effort to overstep the boundaries of that amendment. And there are many other examples of amendments that are actually working quite well and are being followed. And actually, the reason for amendments is to force the federal government to follow the Constitution more closely. And that's what amendments historically have actually done.
Senator Olafson, whose prosperity is most at stake if we don't fix the national debt now?
Well, that's a great question, and that's the central thrust of the issue. That's the heart of the issue here. I have 4 little grandchildren under the age of 6, and those little ones, they have not signed a mortgage, and they have not cast a vote. But we are doing a generational shift of the spending that we are engaged in today. We are spending and sending the debt to future generations who have no say in the matter. And it's generational theft, in my opinion. And we have to do this to protect our future generations. And I don't care who you are, whether you have grandchildren or not. You have nieces, nephews, neighbor children, someone in your life who's important to you, who needs to be protected. This is an issue of protecting future generations, in my opinion.
Well, it's not just future generations. Most of the folks watching this podcast are, millennials or whatever the next generation after millennials is.
Right.
They're getting socked with a bill.
Absolutely they are. And, I'm 62 years old, and I've spent my life working and building equity, and I can probably coast out from here just fine. But in years to come, things are not going to be this easy. And that's what I fear. I fear with the baby boomers, my generation, retiring, and at the same time we will stop paying taxes at the level we're currently paying taxes, and we will be expecting to collect our Social Security benefits and our Medicare benefits that we've been paying into all of our lives. And then if you combine that with a 1 or certainly with a 2% increase in interest rates, do the math, we can't service the debt and meet our Social Security and Medicare obligations. It just can't be done. So that's the doomsday scenario that I see. But the bright side, the flip side, the bright side to it is, I do think we have time to solve this. But time is of the essence, and we need to get after it right now and make these changes that need to be done. We have to impose the external discipline that I talked about earlier on our Congress. And it's not that we have bad people in Congress. The people per se are not necessarily the problem. Our problem is a systemic problem, and we have to change the system. We have to change the rules. Unless and until we do that, nothing is going to change until we reach a precipice from which we can't step back.